Hey, I bet you didn't know how much tax you paid.
I know that some of your clients have tax bills bigger than my house.
No.
Since I've met Carrie, I've invested in companies that now produce yellow pads and highlighters because she uses so many of them.
So I kind of created a Carrieism, if you will. I try to train people to really understand the smell test of accounting. If it smells bad, it's probably bad. If it smells good, well, there's a pretty good chance that it's a good thing. I find that as you get bigger and bigger, you find less and less and less women that do that level of client. 2 ways to make more money. Make more or spend less. We keep Nerf guns under the desk. Nights with my husband are also scheduled and on the calendar.
My dad would be very proud of you. I want you to meet the best CPA. Welcome, Carrie Baron. Hey friends, welcome back to the Marty Davis Show, where we turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones and get to the heart of matters. We are very excited today to be filming our podcast at the Andaz Miami Beach, the newest boutique hotel that is spectacular. It comes from the confidant background to the Andaz, which is a place to be seen. Thank you, Andaz, for providing us with this backdrop. You may be under the impression that CPAs are boring. Buckle up, because today you're going to meet just the opposite. Your perceptions will be changed. Carrie Baron is here with us today, a longtime friend and the founder of Carrie Baron and Associates, a superstar CPA firm and rocketing to success. Now, Carrie is not your usual CPA. Not only is she a fabulous marketer, a wonderful entrepreneur, a very caring mother, she is also one of the most hilarious accountants you're going to meet. It's not all about the spreadsheets. It's all about the soul of the numbers behind the spreadsheet. And quite frankly, since I've met Carrie, I've invested in companies that now produce yellow pads and highlighters because she uses so many of them that I think the stock is going to go up. But I want you to meet the most organized, the best CPA I've known, and she's also my CPA. But welcome, Carrie Baron.
Thanks
so much for being here, Carrie.
Thank you.
So I've known you for several years, Carrie, and I know you are a rock star in your field. So how did you choose this path?
Good question. I think I've always loved organizing, and I've always liked looking for patterns. And I think, like, even as a little kid, you know, you get toys and you find yourself sorting them by color, sorting them by size, sorting them because that's just naturally what my brain does. And I fell into accounting because I loved it. And in the very beginning, I started taking accounting classes and realized that while everybody else was really struggling and the average to pass through those classes was probably about a 60%, which is a D, I was getting straight A's and I wasn't really even trying that hard. So I realized I was really good at the work, and I think once I started getting more and more into the career and started seeing people, I loved the people side of it as much, if not more, than the accounting and technical side. And then when I realized that I could give people advice and then convince them to take that advice, then all of a sudden their taxes got lower, they were happier, I was happier, they were listening, and things worked.
That's great. I know I listen to what you tell me.
Thanks.
And, and I've gotten some really good advice and some really great tax returns.
Thanks.
So if you can say tax returns are great.
They are.
Carrie, you come from a unique background. Your dad is an attorney, and your mom was a social worker. You know, what a wild blend of business and compassion. But maybe that explains why you approach accounting and taxes in the way that you do. What do you think?
Thank you. I deeply appreciate that. And I'd like to believe that that's true. Mom is a do-gooder. Mom cares for people very deeply. Worked for Camilla's House for years and years and years as a social worker, and really taught me that no matter who you are, what you've got going on, there's a kindness and a love that you put into your work, no matter what. And Dad was very business-minded and very corporate and really just had the ins and outs and just always knew what to do. You take the combination of really, really caring about the people you're working with and really having a good technical understanding, you put that together, and I believe it's what makes you really good at what you do. So I really love both sides of that. And I think that, it's not just somebody who can crunch numbers into a return, or it's not somebody that can just sell you on concepts. I think it really does take a marriage of a technical prowess and a genuine love and care for humans that makes you really want to help people. And that's what I do. I like to consider myself an advocate for our clients, and whatever you've got going on, I want to find a way to help.
That's great. Yeah. I know that some of your clients have tax bills bigger than my house, and that you've gotten to that in a very short period of time because you started with some major CPA firms, but went out on your own. Why did you go out on your own?
Good question. I went off on my own after I realized that I could run my own ship my own way and be very successful doing it. And I wanted to work differently. The culture of my firm is kind of a funny culture. We keep Nerf guns under the desks of all of our accountants. We're a little wild and a little quirky, but I love that. And with us, what you see is what you get, and we're fun. I think that we make accounting and tax actually fun. It's been a fun process because at the end of the day, if I can do good work and really convince people to take my advice, then why not have fun doing it? So that's kind of the philosophy that we've always had. And, it gave me the, I guess, I don't know if the word is courage, but just the motivation to go off on my own. Because when I did make that decision, I started calling clients, listen, I'm going off on my own. What do you think? If you want, I can help you transition to another accountant where you are, or if you want to follow me, of course, you're welcome to do that. But 100% of them followed. All of them did. And to this day, I still really don't normally go out and solicit clients. All of our work comes through word of mouth. So it's genuinely been through love and care and developing relationships. And at the end of the day, as much as they love me, I don't think that they would follow me unless they saw that my advice really did produce good tax savings. And early on, I think I got one client, maybe a $6.5 million refund when I found mistakes made by his prior accountant. And after that,
he probably is going to stick with you. What do you think?
You think so?
For
and then send
6.5 million reasons.
Yeah, plus interest.
Okay.
And that's the thing, is that good work produces more good work. So if you really take care of someone and produce something amazing, what ends up happening is that they want to spread you. So mom, dad, brother, sister, business partners, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole nine. It's just kind of a natural evolution through doing what I'd like to say is good work.
Very good.
So, yeah.
No, and you're clearly doing it.
I try.
The results are showing. So
thank you.
Those are the successes of that, starting your own business. What was some of the scariest parts?
Oof. Good question. Being an entrepreneur, as I know everybody kind of has their own journey through this, but I think wearing many hats has been one of the difficult pieces to it, because you're dealing with everything from marketing and branding and trademarking and management, and really making sure that you're developing good, healthy teams. On one hand, I love what I do. I love accounting and tax, which is really my bread and butter, and I love people. So for me, the sales and the intake part of it's really fun. But it means that all of the things have to be important to me. Internal processes, learning how to, as an accounting firm, develop custom-made software. That took a skill set that I had really never developed before being an entrepreneur, but it's a critical part of the business. It's having the structure, having the organization, which I can be organized for client meetings all day long, but making sure that you're running a business in a way that speaks to all of the advice you give to clients and really following that for yourself, it is difficult. So I'd say that's probably been the hardest thing is being an entrepreneur, wearing many, many different hats and really trying to have to figure out what works. We have a saying that, when you're trying to find something that works, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall sometimes, and eventually you're finding out what sticks. And at this point in my early years, I think I threw a lot of spaghetti, and I had a chance because if things don't work out, well, you better throw some more spaghetti. If they do work out, well, hey, that's spaghetti stuck. You better stick with that. So that's been the Carrie method.
And you've got a lot of spaghetti on the wall. I know that.
Yeah.
So, which is great. And, I can see where it's so important for your clients to realize that if you can run your ship, you can certainly give them advice on running theirs, right?
That's been the goal.
Yeah, no. And so many people have that same problem because in my practice as a business lawyer, I see so many business owners who are really good at doing whatever the heart is of their business. And usually that isn't the finances of the business.
Correct.
It's usually not the HR of the business. It's usually not the risk management of the business. And it may not be the growth of the business. It may be selling widgets or designing software or doing some kind of creative work.
Exactly.
But they need that team around them to keep it going right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally true.
And you are an absolutely important part of that team, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no. And it truly makes a difference. And so what's your method in you get a new client and you are primarily looking at taxes or perhaps their business plan that best utilizes the tax system for the most savings? What's your process?
Good question. I'd say that my process is actually pretty consistent and pretty repeatable. It starts by actually caring about the person, because at the end of the day, if I don't know you or if I don't know what your goals are, what you're really trying to accomplish, no tax advice in the world is really going to solve your problems. I try to find out what really makes people tick and what they're trying to accomplish, not just on the tax and finance and accounting side, but what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your long-term plan? Because to me, that's got to matter. And, knowing people's values and knowing the quality of life that they want to have and what they want to go after means that I can give advice that's consistent with those values. So I think I really do try to start with that. No matter who it is, I will always do a review of last 3 years of returns. And I always ask for 3 years because it gives me the ability to look for patterns. In my business, I kind of created a Carrieism, if you will. I try to train people to look for patterns, and I try to train people to really understand the smell test of accounting. If it smells bad, it's probably bad. If it smells good, well, there's a pretty good chance that it's a good thing. And if I can look at 3 years of returns, I see the patterns. I see what was done 3 years ago versus 2 years ago versus 1 year ago, how your income changes over time. And if you're making mistakes, what mistakes are you making that are consistent or that was just because of a one-off from that 1 year? You can't hide from your numbers. They're just an overview of absolutely everything. And I love that. So it'll always start with getting to know the person, getting to know the tax returns. And then I try to have a forward focus. So if I can have financials that cover the current year, then I see, okay, cool. This is what you did historically. That's great. But let's talk about what you're going to do going forward. How are you going to plan your 2025, your 2026, your future? And if I have that information, then I start with hey, I bet you didn't know how much tax you paid. This is what it is. Cool, here are your goals. And then what are we going to do going forward? And that process keeps it smooth. It means that I care about you as a person. I know what you've done in the past. If it's worth changing, then I can. And then if not, then let's have a plan for going forward. And I start you off on the right foot.
Very good. No, it sounds like it's a method. And for someone who is incredibly organized, it works, right?
It does.
There you go.
It does.
Carrie, let's be honest. You're in a male-dominated world. There must have been some challenges that you've had through the years. Tell us about the challenges, but more importantly, how did you overcome them?
appreciate that. I definitely agree that this is a male-dominated industry. If you were to look at accountants as a whole, I think generally tax accountants tend to lean towards being men, which is fine. But I find that as you get into more and more and more complicated and sophisticated tax work, at the level that we do tax work, and let's say we're talking about clients that have $1 million tax bills, I find that as you get bigger and bigger, you find less and less and less women that do that level of client. And then it just becomes a matter of finding your tribe. And for me, I was very lucky in the very beginning to have been connected to some very incredible women. I was connected early on to Dr. Elaine Lifton, who put me on the board of the Council for Educational Change, got me connected to Young Women's Preparatory Academy, where I do work with young women in the community, which helped me get into the Women's Awards, where I won top 10 women-led startup firms my first year, and have won every year since then, top 100 women-led businesses. And that's mostly local to South Florida. So I think that finding similar, values and similar women who are, trying to be at the absolute top of their game means that I network with people who are like-minded. So, even though I may be one of the few female accountants out there, and certainly one of the few that runs their own company and, at this level, I keep good company. And I managed to find women who are at the top of their field, and they're the most supportive people in the world. They really are. There's no jealousy. There's no, there's genuine excitement for each other's successes. And if you can find that, stick with it.
It's interesting because my father always told me that you want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are more interesting than you are, have done more and been more places than you are, and that when you talk with them, you wish you were more like them. And it sounds like that's just what you're doing.
That is a very good philosophy.
Yeah. My dad would be very proud of you.
Thank you.
And so, because I try and live by that motto as well. That's why you're part of my team, because I honor what you do. And you clearly have some ideas and some systems and some advice that has been invaluable to me and to my clients. I know that I've, as recently as this week, sent you over a liquor distributor who I hope is going to retain your services because they're up and coming and are going to do great things. And I'm excited for them. And whether it's been doctors or whether it's a law firm or whether it's a liquor distributor or individuals, you've always taken care of them with grace, and they always come back to me and say, "Oh my God, she's on top of this, and is she full of life and excitement?" And I think it's important because finances are a scary part for people. And the thought of having an IRS audit is terrible. And the thought of paying too much taxes is terrible. So where do you meet so that you feel safe from an audit, but that you haven't given away your hard-earned money for no reason?
Smart questions. I think it starts with any advice that you give a client, you have to be able to back up where, there's a right way to do everything. Even aggressive tax positions, there's a right way to document and a right way to substantiate and make sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. And I'm fine putting together aggressive tax positions as long as I know that they could fly through an audit. Yeah. That's the goal. So I think that a lot of people don't really realize there are a lot of things that you can do to prevent audits from your life. Easy stuff, and for example, why does not every CPA in this country pull tax transcripts before filing a tax return? It's the easiest thing in the world.
She just did that for me and found something. And yes, so it's a really good thing. And if someone hasn't told you that, it's time to switch to Carrie Baron and Associates.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please. Yeah. I appreciate it. Real life examples. because it makes a difference. There's always a right way to do the things that you're doing. So, the thing is that when you've been through audits and you know that you can successfully come out the other side, what you eventually learn is what the IRS asks you while you're going through an audit. And if I know the questions, then why not just put the work in such a way that I've already have the readily available answers to your questions, so that whatever you could possibly throw at me, I have already documented that and prepared my clients for success. What a concept.
There you go.
It works.
Once again, it's experience.
Thanks.
Even though she looks 20, she has experience. She's 24. But Carrie, you've done some amazing things with some very heavy hitter clients and saved people some tremendous amounts of money and help their businesses grow and thrive. And what do you find is your greatest challenge in trying to get people to follow your advice? Is there pushback?
The clients who know me at this point, I think my homework becomes very famous. And usually my system will kind of start with, look, if I am meeting you for the first time, I'm totally new to you. You don't know me. You don't know my advice. You don't know my system. So I'm kind of a believer in start small, build trust, work your way up. And if I'm able to take a person who's brand new to working with me and say, hey, look, I want to meet once a quarter. We meet once a quarter and I'm able to blow your mind and give you a million pieces of tax advice. And you really follow my advice and realize, oh my God, when I listen, I save oodles of money in tax because you can substantiate that. You follow my advice. I know what you did. I know how much tax savings it's going to produce for you. And I don't have to guess. I plop it into a tax return and let clients see it. Very effective system. It works. And what ends up happening is that the clients who watch that process and say, oh my God, and all of my meetings start the same way. I'll say, hey, look, if we wouldn't have met, your tax bill would have been X. Or you follow my advice and here are the 85 things that I want you to do. And if you do those things, here's the new version of your tax return here on the screen where you can see it with your own eyeballs. I find that that's a very effective method. People get very motivated and they say, oh my God, if I do these things, now my tax bill will be this many bajillions of dollars less. And then people follow your homework. And then if you want to see more of me, well, then it's up to you. Are you happy with once a quarter? Okay, no, fine. We can meet twice a quarter. We eventually start meeting once a month or something like that. Usually what ends up happening is the clients that have had more experience with me and see that, oh my God, this is effective. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Those clients tend to meet me super regularly. So my big guys, usually the ones that have tax bills $1 million and up, they eventually get to a position where they want to start seeing me once a week. And as busy as they are, they're not going to take those meetings with me unless they're very productive, they're very organized, they're very thoughtful, they're very focused on saving the client's money. And, you know as well as me, 2 ways to make more money. Make more or spend less. And God willing, it's a holistic overview of all of the above.
There you go. For my investment, are you using the yellow legal pads for every one of those people?
So I'm a big believer in creating a paper trail to things. Not anecdotally, but if you think about generally speaking, anything that I do on a computer has an audit log, a timestamp. Old school paper does not. So I really like a system where if ever I needed to provide the IRS paperwork and I said, hey, IRS, I've got all of these yellow notes that I've been keeping like this for the last decade. I have everything documented and written down. It's just not typed up. Will you give me a little bit of time to type these up and put this in a format for you that works? Will the IRS say yes to that? Yes, all day long. But if I say, oh, I have nothing put together, I have nothing ready to go, let me type it out for you, is that okay? No. Yeah. So, So I like my system. It gives me the control of my information in a way that's not digitized. I find that these days everything's digitized, but there are times and places where you want things to go a little old school. So that's the Carrie method. I find that simplicity is best when handling anything from the IRS.
I love it. Note to self, buy more stock in that paper company. Because when you get homework from Carrie, it's a yellow sheet that is very organized, and there'll be highlights in different colors. Again, the highlighters are an important investment too. And these are the parts that need to be done right away. These are things that you might decide to do. These are things that you shouldn't do. And these are things that, have worked for me in the past. You may want to consider it. All of them are different colors, and all of it is very easy to read, and it makes it easy for the client meeting. And quite frankly, for you, you can do more client meetings because that's really organized. And to tell you the truth, she has an army of people working there, and they send you all of those things ahead of time with instructions to please be familiar with this before we sit down. And so it is really a great system, and you make it easy for the client. And the confidence that's built by that is so important too, because I know as a client, and your other clients I'm sure do as well, that you've taken the time to really go through everything, look at it, make certain that you're prepared for the meeting. And I've had prior accountants, and if this sounds familiar to you all, it's another reason to work with Carrie Baron. Well, the tax code says this. Well, if I wanted to read the tax code, I could do that. I'm hiring a CPA for her knowledge and for her ability to tell me, yes, this is what the tax code says, but this is also what the case law says. This is what the tax reviews are. This is what the IRS has said in their bulletins. This is what I, as a CPA, are keeping up on. And what the tax code says is only a very over-sketched thing that, of course, if you follow that and pay 50% of your income, you're never going to have to worry about an audit. But in case you wanted to keep some of that money, you may want to think at a higher level, right?
Marty, I love how you said that.
Well,
so
listen,
true.
I'm living proof.
So true.
I'm great at, listening. Like I said before, I want to surround myself with people that I admire and know a whole lot more than me. Thank you, Carrie Baron. But, Carrie, it's not just your empire building. You're a mom, you're a wife. How do you make all that work?
That's a good question. The truth is, I think through absolutely psychotic scheduling. My days from the second that I wake up all the way through everything from making sure my daughter goes to school and making sure that my day has a plan to it and a rhythm to it and I have time to do all of the things, it's scheduled, which means that date nights with my husband are also scheduled and on the calendar. Time with clients is scheduled, usually the ones that know that they want to meet me. If they want to meet me once a week, well, you better calendar that for the whole year. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is that, while client time tends to take priority, my personal time ends up getting scheduled too, which is good. So it's pretty much every hour of the day does end up getting accounted for. And I find that if I ever have free time, clients will book my drive time. Clients will book the amount of time that it takes me to wait in line to buy food if ever I did that. It just gets to a point where everything's scheduled. And that works just fine for me. I actually kind of like that.
No, and everybody gets taken care of and everybody feels safe and protected, I assume.
That's the goal.
That's great. And Jacob, your husband is a computer whiz. So is he the one who designed your software?
Ooh, I got very lucky on that. In the very beginning, I was told if you want to spend time with your husband, you better put him in the same office as you. And that's exactly what we did. So very fortunate for me. My husband and I worked down the hallway. Doesn't mean that we necessarily see each other during the day, but it means that over time he would watch me work. And he'd, kind of listen to conversation. He'd say, well, you're doing it this way. Why don't we build a feature to do that? Why don't we build a system that takes care of that for you? And, my whole systems, I remember in the beginning, I would send out engagement letters, and it's every engagement letter you send, I would print them and physically sign them, scan them back in, send them to the client, keep a record of that, do the rinse, wash, repeat for next year. Now it's an automated system. It's based on the time entries from last year. Everything ticks and ties and moves forward automatically. Powers of attorney used to be old school. printed, signed, wedding signature. Nobody does that anymore. Transcripts used to be a process of me calling the IRS and actually waiting on hold, pulling the transcripts. Now all of that's done automatically through my software. Still legal, still ethical, still being done with all the safety in there, but fully automated, which is incredible. And the best part about it, not only do I get a chance to work with my husband, who's brilliant at what he does, and I have totally custom software, but it also makes me eligible for the R&D tax credit. So on one hand, I have the opportunity to pay out my husband's company, Baron Technologies. And at the same time, on the other hand, I can get government credits through the research and development credits to pay for all of those fees that would otherwise go to my spouse. So that's winning.
Absolutely winning, and that's planning. So let's talk a little bit more about those research and development credits.
Ooh, I'd love
How
to.
does that work?
Good question. I think a lot of people think about R&D credits and they think, oh my God, that's for like the pharmaceutical companies and these big, ginormous companies. Oh, well, that's definitely just not true. I mean, I'm an accounting firm and I'm certainly eligible for R&D all day long. In fact, if your gross receipts are under $5 million a year, you're eligible for even better R&D credits. Normal R&D credits will go against your federal tax bill. If you're making under $5 million, you can offset payroll taxes, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, which is kind of an incredible thing. So knowing that if you're innovating, even as an accounting firm, I have custom software that makes me eligible for R&D. A lot of people are doing things that are innovative, new processes, new technology, new systems, new ways of doing things that they don't realize qualifies them. So my advice, it is free to take a meeting with R&D people. All you're doing is taking a meeting. They tell you whether you qualify or not. And most of the time, they charge what's called a success fee, meaning if they get you money back, then you pay them. And if they don't get you money back, you don't pay them anything. Those contingent systems, they're great because if you get me money back, I'm happy to pay you. And if not, what did it cost me?
Sounds great.
I know, right?
I wonder if the innovation of podcasts and doing social
I think
media
it
and
very
things
well
like that
might,
might
Marty.
fit in. Ooh, we have to talk.
I know.
And I know that part of, is it ADP that has a special wing that does just that?
That's true,
So,
which
and
I
it's
really
people
like.
very good.
A lot of times you think of ADP as just entirely payroll providers, but what I like about this, there are ADP people that all they do is research and development. They couldn't answer a question in the world to you about payroll, but what's really nice is that as a CPA, I can give you good advice. I can make sure that whatever advice I give you is legal, ethical, something I could defend in an audit. But I would never in my right mind guarantee a deduction, guarantee a credit. It's just not done.
Yeah.
ADP does. And they guarantee the deduction and do what's called no cost audit defense, meaning oopsie, somehow you got picked up for an audit. Well, we will defend that R&D credit that we just recommended to you at no cost. The fact that they're willing to do that to me is kind of unbelievable. So ADP is my favorite place to send R&D.
Absolutely. You've got nothing to lose, right?
I know. It's a good system.
So you've been talking deductions versus credits. What's the difference?
Good question. General rule, you can think of a deduction. Let's say in the United States, there are 7 tax brackets, the highest of which being 37%, even after Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If you think about it, if you spend $1 and save 37 cents in tax, that's kind of the conventional way of looking at a deduction. With an adjustment, you ever heard of the concept of AGI, or adjusted gross income? That's considered the line. So if you have an adjustment, it's an above the line adjustment, which means that you will get a dollar for dollar reduction of your taxable income. Because that's just how math works. It's above the line. So you get the bigger bang for your buck on adjustments or credits than you will out of a deduction, which means if I have a choice, I will always push a client to do the things that are most efficient first. So for example, adjustments include things like retirement or things like health, and I feel good pushing those things because it's good for the client, good for them, good for me, good for your tax bill. I love pushing those things. Deductions, I would do secondary because you get less dollar savings from it. And, it's still a good idea. So always you triage. You do the things that are good for you and most efficient first, and then you work your way down.
Very good.
Yeah.
So great. So a credit may be 3 times as valuable as a deduction.
It could be.
Yeah,
It could
so-
be. And then getting into the fun stuff, I mean, sometimes there are things called refundable credits, which mean that even when you get to a 0, you can get money back. That would be like the earned income credit, for example, is refundable. So taxes are fun. They're nuanced. The more that you know, the more you can really be strategic. And every case is different. You got to take the time, learn the client, love them, because I think it means you care and you really want to do right by them, and you can use the most strategic version to get them the end goal.
So probably those tax services that I see in strip centers where they have like the Statue of Liberty costume that they're wearing and waving a sign that says they do tax returns for $100 may not come up with some of these sophisticated ideas. Would that be a fair statement?
I think that would be a fair statement. And, to be fair, if you're a simple W-2 employee and, that's all you got going on, H&R Block is fantastic. TurboTax is fantastic for the right client. Now, can something like that handle an entity, a true entity, not a single member LLC that's disregarded, but a true partnership, S Corp, C Corporation, anything like that? H&R Block will not do that. It doesn't handle states. It can't handle international. So any of the fun stuff that you're going to see on your tax return, that's going to be something that you're going to want to put more love into, because their systems just aren't built for that.
Right. And so our listeners can really understand some of those things. Choice of entity is incredibly important. As a business lawyer,
Correct.
That's what I do for planning for people. And both from risk to tax benefits, all the way up to how you scale something and who can be an investor. So having those entities that work best and where those entities are cited is very important too.
Critical.
And I know we had a little issue that I and my partner at the time had a bank account in another country. And that created a whole nother bit of work that you needed to account for, correct?
Yep.
So if you do have that, make certain that you do need that and that you are accounting for that, right? Yeah,
Okay,
no,
did that,
listen.
Marty.
And because it was so much easier to close that account than it was to take care of all of the accounting nightmare for it. We live and learn, and we have experts. I wish I would have asked her before we opened the account, but, listen, you learn. I love how you say kindness is so important and a requirement from and for your clients. That's not something most firms put in writing. Why do you do that?
I want to be genuinely motivated to help the people around me. And I find that no matter who I'm working with, at any level, I will always be kind to all people, because that's how I am. That's how I was made. That's every part of me. And I ask for the same back, because I think that at this point, we're good at what we do. And I do have an excellent team of accountants and administrative staff that help me. So, to me, I'm very fortunate at this point. We don't have yellers. We don't have screamers. We don't have people who are rude to us. At this point, it earns you credibility. The clients know, wow, you're really good at this and you will take care of me and you won't drop the ball. And if I've got a deadline, I will meet that deadline. So if all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and I've done all of the things to make super sure that I'm taking care of you from a tax perspective, then the rest is just asking for that kindness, because anything we can do with kindness and with respect and with, dare I say, love for your work. And, I think at this point, being self-employed and really, coming from that top 10 firm that didn't have that mentality, it makes people panicky. It makes people, I'll get it done for you, but they're doing it rushed. They're doing it nervous. They're doing it in ways that aren't conducive to good work. And for me, if we have kindness across the board, then people are grateful and happy with, their work product, then I can do right by them, and I can make sure that they do right by me back.
Sure.
It's a really good system.
So it sounds like you may have fired some clients through the years.
That is true. It takes something special for me to make that decision, but you do everything that you can to keep an account happy and healthy. And at the end of the day, even failing businesses still need good accountants. And, look, I'm happy to do the work. It's where, you'll take a client meeting and they'll say, well, Carrie, I got a dividend of, half a million dollars, but I know that the company didn't issue me a 1099 DIV. Just do me a favor, just don't report it. And then you talk to the client, and you're like, no, well, that doesn't work like that. And, there really should have been a paper trail, but even if there's not, you're still supposed to pay tax on worldwide income. You convince them, you talk to them about it, and you talk to them about audit risk and God forbid if they were caught. And either way, this is just on us. We'll report your worldwide income. And at some point, if you have clients that say, nope, I don't want to report it. I don't feel like it. I want you to do it this way, even if I know it's wrong. Those are the accounts that, but then it speaks to the person. The person knows, hey,
they're doing it wrong.
They know they're doing it wrong. They're given the option. They're spoken to about it. So they know, no, there's a right way. And hey, we could do all these things about it. But then if they insist, no, Carrie, just don't report it. At some point, for all the love that I have for my clients, for my staff, for everything that we do, I plan to do this till the day that I die. I love my work. And if I lose my license, then I can't do this for anyone.
Well, and they're going to be the ones that are going to get audited, and you're going to be the one, it'll be all your fault because, will have forgotten that,
That's right.
Although I am sure your system spits out something that says, we told you this,
you
shouldn't do this, blah, blah, blah. But, anybody can file a lawsuit for any reason. So you still could be defending a lawsuit from a client who was bad to the bone, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah, no.
That's right.
And it's my advice to my clients: if you've got a bad client, get rid of them.
Yeah.
It's just not worth the effort.
They don't get better.
The other side of that coin is that when you deal and want clients to be kind to you, you're also kind to your staff.
Yeah.
And make certain that they're happy in a good work environment and do some special things for them. Tell us why working at Carrie Baron and Associates is such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'll give you an example. I just finished my summer interns, just ended August 1st, just a couple days ago. And, as soon as the internship program ends, we hugged, we took our pictures, all that jazz. And Friday night, I start getting all these messages from this intern and saying, Carrie, I didn't have the courage to tell you in front of all these other people, but I just wanted to tell you that you changed my entire life. And, and it wasn't just he had no reason to say that to me. I mean, the internship had ended. I already wrote you your letter of recommendation. We're already in good standing. But, telling me, Carrie, I waited my whole life to find a job that I would actually like. And here I am working in an accounting firm that everybody else thought was going to be boring and stale. And, oh, my God, I have to be there 8 hours a day. But I love my work and I wish I could stay here longer and I want to be here. Or I changed my major to accounting because I didn't realize how cool this was, and I get told that a lot. And, I think that at this point, I have a team of people who are just as wild about accounting as I am, which is nuts in and of itself. Because you talk to them and they'll tell you, oh my God, I love this work paper. Or, oh my God, I love, comparing the transcripts. Or, oh my God, because a lot of times they get to see both sides of things, where they do the tax work, but then I let them shadow me in meetings where they'll see, hey, we did this work and we, here's all of the advice in action. Now watch me show this to the client. Watch me plan ahead for them for 2025, 2026. And then they get to see it. Right. And then here you have these clients that are so engaged in their returns. And then, all these concepts that I talk about with my team, they see it in real life. They see my clients show up exactly on time because I'm always on time for them. They see them having read my notes and all of my paperwork ahead of time, having studied it, having prepared questions that are typed up and organized in advance. My team sees the love and the effort and the energy that our clients put into things. And then it's always the same concept. We start with, hey, if we wouldn't have met, this would have been your tax bill. Now, here's these 85 things that I want to do. And then here's this other infinitely smaller tax bill. So they see it.
They're seeing the work.
They're seeing it.
What all their hard work went to.
Yeah.
And they see the client's appreciation.
Yeah. And then the clients are so happy. And then if you tell them, hey, client, I need you to do these, this long list of things, the clients are, oh my God, when will you check my homework? And can you just double check that I did everything right and that you're very happy with it? Because they see the results.
Right.
So
No.
I think it keeps everybody happy and excited.
And I know you do great things for your employees. You take great care of them. I know you work with them on fitness. You work with them on having regular abilities to work, to balance work and outside life together. And so a great place to work as well.
Thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
And so those of you CPAs and accountants out there, if you're looking for a job, you may want to go to Carrie Baron and Associates. They're growing so fast, they probably need some really quality people.
That is true.
Just a hint. But, don't work for that CPA firm that tells their clients, well, this is what the code says. Let's be inventive. Let's have fun. Let's see what we can save the client, right? No,
Right.
it's a huge thing. I think that it's the spirit in which you practice that brings you your success. And it's the enthusiasm. And we both belong to a business group. And Carrie regularly gets testimonials about, oh my God, she came up with such great things. Oh my God, she introduced us to this person. Oh my God, I got a new client because of Carrie. Oh my God, you can't believe the amount of taxes I've saved. Oh my God, we went to a party with her and she is so much fun. And when's the last time you heard that about an accountant or a CPA? And we both have belonged to this group for a long time now, and there's nothing better than hearing people say, oh my God, you did something great for me, right? I've been involved for 22 years, and I hear it, not as often as hers, but she's better. And but I do hear it, and, my partner always wonders, why do you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive to Miami to go to this 7 o'clock meeting? And, he just needs to show up more often so he can hear how wonderful people think I am. I've got to convince him it's not easy. But I'm still working on it. But anyway, it is great to see. And it's great to see your success. I think I was one of your first clients once you went out on your own.
I think you may have been the very first one, Marty.
Very good. And I'm still there. No, listen, she'd like to be able to give me a bigger bill, but I need to make more money. Because I'm excellent at expenses. I've always been very good at expenses. But I'm truly honored to have you here, Carrie, because I want to have podcasts that people, when they're listening, they're, number one, entertained. Number two, they're going to walk away thinking that, gee, I've learned something, or I've got more questions now, and I want to reach out to either Marty or to his guest, Carrie Baron and Associates, to get some answers, and maybe hire you, or maybe they want a new friend because Carrie's fabulous. And that's my criteria for guests for the podcast here. And the team that we've put together to produce these is so awesome. And I'm so lucky to have found them. So let's talk about the future. What's the next generation of CPAs? What are they going to look like?
I find that a lot of the accountants that come out of school keep asking about using AI. And
we've heard that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't love AI. It's not that I don't use AI in my business, which we do in the right time, in the right place. But I'll give you an example where this is very much the Carrie philosophy of trust but verify. I asked AI to put together an overview of the big, beautiful bill that was just passed on July 4th. And it did a beautiful job until I started fact checking a lot of what it put it together, and it made up a whole bunch of deductions that weren't real things, which is not so good if you're the one training clients on this is what you look for and this is what you plan for. It just creates facts sometimes, or creates precedents that aren't real precedents, which is a problem. And if you find one thing that's wrong, The smell test is, I don't trust it because, well, that's not part of the new law. So why would you spit this out? It's just not trustworthy. So I think the new generation of accountants, I try to teach them those same values. And I'd say the two biggest are trust but verify and use the smell test. Because if things smell funny to you, if you're able to identify, hey, wait a second, I know I read this from the IRS, and then here's this thing saying something totally different. Well, what am I going to trust? The IRS or AI? Mm-hmm. It doesn't smell right. So, it's just kind of having that critical thinking skills of, hold on, there's something wrong here, and really just knowing when and where to pause and double check things. So it's the trust but verify system and the smell test. Those two philosophies, I think, get me to accountants that care for people and kind of watch me have the love and the care for clients that I do, which I think makes me a better accountant to them. So I look for accountants that have that similar philosophy. Can I teach everything, in your first 6 months of working with me? No. But I can tell you my training system and how I've developed a way of showing new accountants how to do things. At this point, we're really good at training, and we know what to teach and how to really create processes that are repeatable and how they can check their own work. And of course, everything that we do go through a system of checks and balances that's independently verifiable, which I love. So I'm hopeful that even though there really is a shortage of accountants, that's a real thing. I'm very hopeful that the new generation of accountants will have the same love, the same heart for what they do, and the same passion because, accounting and taxes really are interesting. It's just you need someone who has that same love to show you how and why they're that interesting.
Right.
So.
Well, and it's that love that keeps people working, and it's the reason for going into work every day, whether it's Zoom or in the office.
Totally agree.
And because my thought is motivation for success is not the money, it's what you do every day and what the money can buy. We don't work because we put an extra $1,000 in our bank account.
Correct.
We work so that we can take our family on vacation, we can go out to eat, we can buy a car, we can buy a boat, we can do all of the frivolous things that really trip our trigger, right?
Correct.
Or you get the smile from the client when you've saved the money or done the right thing, right?
Yep.
You and I both love restaurants, love food, love good wine. And, you're talking about a smell test. Mm-hmm. And I just want to remind our audience that, if you're not a connoisseur of whether something smells good or bad in taxes, you want to get to the connoisseur who does. So, and that type of person is Carrie Baron or an experienced CPA, right? Because, if you can't tell the difference between whether it sounds good or not, because quite frankly, if I'm listening to, well, I can get 100% deduction if I do this, I like it to begin with. And, but if 99 other people and the IRS audit team thinks it smells bad, I want to listen to the experts. So, Carrie, I appreciate you being here, and I want our audience to get to know a little bit more about you in what we call rapid fire. Ooh. So we're going to ask Carrie to let her hair down further, not be that organized, but let's do some quick hits. Ooh. Nothing overwhelming, but let's get to know the woman behind the spreadsheets. Okay? What's your guilty pleasure when no one's watching that you can talk about?
Organizing. I am a psychotic organizer. If you were to go to my house right now at this very moment, all of the drawers in my home, everything inside those drawers is color coordinated. All of my closets are color coordinated. My bookshelves are color coordinated, organized by size and type. That's, I have a deep appreciation for that. So, yeah, I think that's it.
I could be so much thinner if I did that instead of midnight snacking. I've got to try that. I will try it. So what's your dream vacation? City escape or totally unplugged island adventure?
Oh, I found our dream location. I think it is in Hopetown in Abacos, Bahamas. It's a super quick flight. And if you go out onto the beach, you can go to the beach, look around 360 degrees, and no one else will be there, which I think is pretty extraordinary. So I love that. Pristine water, true tranquility, a little alone time. Dream vacation.
Tell me again the name.
Abacos. It's called Hopetown.
Hopetown. Okay, very good. Maybe our next podcast should be in Hopetown.
Oh, you'd love it.
Oh,
Marty.
I think I would. Yeah, no, I'm a boater, so I'm going to love that.
Yeah, it's nice.
If your life had a theme song right now, what would it be?
There's a song that that talks about how much loving what you do is just such a part of them. And I think that's pretty much me in a nutshell. If you really do love your work and you really do love what you're doing, then, what ends up happening to me is that, just like you said earlier, at parties, when I'm in elevators, when I'm, Jesus, in the restroom, talking to somebody next to me washing their hands, I find myself talking about accounting and tax. So I like that system because genuinely, if you love what you do, it's something that just becomes part of your everyday.
Yeah, it's what you think about. And, there is that whole line of thinking about that says what you think about is what's going to happen. Whether you think it's good or whether you think it's bad, or whether you think something good is going to happen or whether something bad's going to happen, you're right. Because it follows your thoughts.
It does.
So I think that's great. And the proof in the pudding is that Carrie is the superstar referrer in our business group because she's on an elevator and there are two people that are captured and that they may need a roof, they may need a cleaning service, they may need a lawyer, they may need an insurance agent. And she's going to find those things out in a 10-floor elevator ride. So when you see her in an elevator, if you got any questions, you should ask her because she's going to have a referral for you. It's great. If you weren't a CPA and you did something totally different in career-wise, what would it be?
Ooh. I would have loved to be a marital therapist, as strange as that is. I love people and I love love. And I've been with my husband, I did the math, 42% of my life. And yeah.
Surprisingly enough, she did the math. Yes.
And I think that it's not easy to run a business and it's not easy to retain relationships over the course of many, many years, especially when it's romantic. It takes work, but it's done with love. And I think that that's something that I'm good at. It's something that I've fostered and developed over many years. And it's something that I think I can teach other people.
Wow. Are you taking appointments for that?
Well, if you want to hang out and have a drink after this.
There you go. I think I've found a new way to pay you. It's all good. Well, Carrie, thank you. A CPA, an entrepreneur, a superstar, a mom, a low-key, most organized person you'll ever meet. Just see her drawers. What I love about Carrie's story is that she puts passion into everything you do, and you truly care about your clients, your employees, and all the people around you. It's what makes you a superstar, and that you know your worth, you appreciate your worth, and you share your worth with the world around you. And we're all better for it. So until next time, I'm Marty Davis, reminding you to take charge of your business, your boundaries, and your time. And, maybe we should all sort our kitchen drawers and color coordinate everything. So take care, be bold, and keep your receipts, right?
That's right.
Thanks so much, Carrie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Marty.